All right, guys, Sergey here to walk through the setup of our new photo booth. This is going to be essentially a stand-based, battery-powered photo booth that's going to enable us to be a little more mobile, meaning we can literally pick up the stand with all the photo booth components on it and move elsewhere if need be. Shouldn't be necessary, but we can. And it's also a DSLR booth based, or CSLR based booth. So I'm going to start with walking through what all the components are. Then we'll go through the setup. So to start with, we have our C stand here. This is the three-pronged base, and then the stand that extends. Then we'll start from the top to bottom. The top will be a flash mounted all the way at the very top of the stand. The flash does have in what am I saying? Integrated receiving, and then we have a transmitter here. It's going to transmit all the flash or actuations from the camera to the flash. We have a camera here, the same one we use for the roamer. It's the 5D Mark IV with the 35mm lens, and then we have a clamp here to be clamped to the C stand. And then here we have a USB. I forget what version of this. I think it's A, but it's similar to the USBs you plug into an external hard drive that will go into the 5D Mark IV, and out of that will go into the back of our tablet here. The tablet is an iPad Generation 7, but it's encased in a special way that I've kind of had to engineer, do some hole drilling today. But we've run an adapter from the iPad to the back of this to be a little more discreet from the front. And then this USB will plug into one side of this adapter. The other side of the adapter will have a regular Lightning USB cable plugged into it so that we can always be charging the phone. So this end of it, the bigger end, the B end, will go into the V-mount battery that's here. And then this end will go into the small Lightning input there on the back of the iPad. So I'll show that later up close. Lastly, we have the dummy battery that's going to power our camera. We're not going to use regular camera batteries. What is this? I was trying to remember it off the top of my head, but the LP-E69H. We're not just going to keep changing batteries out throughout the night. This will just be a dummy that goes into the bottom. We remove the door from the bottom of the camera, and I can show how to do that really quickly, but it's a D-tap that goes into the side. There are only two outputs on this. Some of our other V-mount batteries will have multiple outputs, but you'll plug the D-tap adapter into that D-tap, and then as previously mentioned, you'll plug the Lightning for the phone or for the iPad into the USB. Sorry, wrong end. Lightning or USB to Lightning will go into the iPad. And that's how everything will kind of be connected. Of course, we'll make this pretty. This clamp is the V-mount clamp. So it'll clamp to the pole from here, and then the V-mount will sit in like so. And then to release it, you'll just click to release. So I said lastly, but lastly, this is going to be the softbox that sits over the flash. And so I'm going to show the entire setup, how we set everything up. What I first like to do is go ahead and set up our softbox for the flash, because the flash connects to the softbox from the outside, which gives us the ability to connect, and if we need to push buttons on the side of the flash, we can. It's not necessary since we'll have the transmitter, but just in case we do. But just to kind of show what the softbox will look like when you have it, you'll pull this white cover off first, or out, and then you're going to open up the softbox, and you'll notice this little kind of like metal nipple, if you will, that has to be pushed, and there's a button at the top that will release it, right? So when we break down, I'll show you that. But essentially, this rubber nipple needs to go all the way down over this little silver pin here. So I'm going to put this face down. Let's see if maybe I can, okay, yeah, we have a visual. So we're going to push this all the way down, apply a little pressure, and just run that pin right through the nipple, and it's going to click and lock in place. So that's what you're looking at there. You're all good to go. You'll flip her over. Well, I'm sorry, before we flip that over, we can go ahead and put our softbox cover on. And for our application, we can go ahead and put it on now. If we were going to do something else with a different kind of C-stand design, maybe we would wait to do this, but for this particular application, you're just going to Velcro the sides of this softbox material, this white kind of scrim. Just going to Velcro it. My suggestion is get as close to the inside as possible whenever you're Velcroing it, so that, because the further up you try to connect it, the wider it has to stretch, and then you end up with like a space where it's kind of like a hole, if you will. But this should suffice, should be just fine. Flip that over. Then our flash AD600 by Godux is going to be, there's 3 prongs around this ring here. You're just going to match it with the 3 that you see here, and then rotate counterclockwise. So connect. I'm sorry, rotate clockwise. Bam. It's very small, about a 1/2 inch turn. Clockwise, again, it's battery powered. This is the battery here. To check your battery life, you can just go to the top and push this button. We have full battery, so great. So I'm just gonna set this flash to the side really quickly. Face down like so is fine. Just be careful. And the reason I like to set the flash up first is because once we set the stand up, we're gonna put the flash on it first and then send it up to the top, okay? So this, now we've dealt with the very top of the booth. We're gonna go for the very bottom now. So you'll have to, this is kind of tough, but you'll have to pull from the bottom first, then from the second to open up the 3-prong stand, right? Make sure this is unscrewed, that it's not gonna interfere with the entrance of your stand post. So just gonna set that down like so. We're gonna put our stand post in. Now, in my opinion, it's going to be a good idea for the longer leg, the taller leg right here, to point towards where we're going to be shooting. So for this example, I'm going to shoot this way, and you'll notice the one at the top, the longest and largest leg, is pointing forward where we'll be shooting, okay? And so now, well, before I do that, I'm going to fasten our stand post at the bottom, which is right here. Just going to fasten that to make sure that if we were to try to move this by holding this handle and picking everything up, it's not just going to pull the post out of the bottom base. So, all right, we have that set up. I moved a little too quickly here. We have this set up. As I mentioned before, we're going to go ahead and put the flash on first and send it up, because then we can just start clapping things on. So, boom. This just sits right over like so. Make sure she's all the way down. And then fasten her right here. Now, if you want to change the angle of the flash, there is a lever on this side, kind of sticking out like that. This is how you loosen it to change the angle. You're going to be pointing down at about a 45-degree angle for our applications, all right? And so we're going to go ahead and fasten that way. Oops, hit the wall there. And then we're going to send her up. So to send her up, you always want to start from the bottom, then go up. All right, so I'm going to loosen this. The spring's going to let go. And I usually go up towards the top. Right before it stops, or right when it stops, I go down about an inch and then fasten it. And that just helps with the stability of the booth. And that should be all you need height-wise. You shouldn't have to actually open up the top. If you do feel like you want to, for whatever reason, I mean, no more than just opening up the, before you have a flash on, opening up the tension, letting it spring up, and then tightening the block here. But you really should not have to use the second extension at all. Okay, so now we're moving to power everything. So we're going to, well, I'm sorry, not to power everything. We're going to do that last. We're going to put our camera on next, because it's going to kind of allow us to see how everything else will be orientated. Let's see. And so what I'm doing here is working the ball joint to a 90-degree angle. And to do so, I have to loosen this and loosen it. Well, the clamp doesn't have to be loosened, but loosen this. And then that's at a 90-degree angle. And then I can kind of not completely snug it, because you might need to kind of maneuver that a little bit. We're going to put our camera on here with the clamp and just turn like so. To give a close-up of that, of what I'm doing here, it'd be better from this angle. Here we go. All I did was that clamp it about yay high, based on whatever your, height capabilities are, I guess. But this is important down here. Make sure this is fastened because this is going to loosen the mobility of the camera here. All right. So we're going to go ahead and set our angle. If you need to go ahead and turn the camera on, slip a battery in there real quick, like a regular LP battery in there to get a view for how the alignment is, you can do that. But honestly, once this thing is clipped on here, you can modify that once the iPad is on. So next up, we're going to put our iPad on, our tablet. And similar to the camera, it's a C clamp here and then a ball joint clamp or lever here. So we're going to clip that here. And I would say do your best to kind of line these up similarly to kind of make it easy and a little more discreet. So people who are walking by don't necessarily notice the differences. It's just cleaner looking. Let me turn this around this way so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. All right, so you got your C-clamp firm on there, and then you're gonna kind of straighten your iPad up best you can, maybe even center it on the lens, and then you're gonna tighten this guy up. So now you got your camera, you got your iPad set up, and then lastly, you're gonna put your battery pack on, and that should be the last thing you have to clamp. My suggestion is clamping it in between the two. Just makes it easier distance-wise for our cables. So you just put that there, and it kind of hides behind the iPad. If you want to put it like right above where the iPad is clamped, that's fine. And then literally this V on the back of the V mount sets in. To check the battery life on that battery, you just hit that button. You'll see we got 3 bars here, which means you're good for an event. These things are beasts. And so now we have everything connected to the pole, right? Last thing we need to do is connect them to each other. So I'm going to kind of walk through the navigation of that. The first thing is going to be putting our flash transmitter on. And so that slides in via hot shoe right here. We'll make sure that's unlocked, okay? And then you're going to slide that in like so and lock it. We'll turn that on later once we have power. Next, we're going to go ahead and put our USB to our camera in. Now, you can do this to be a little more, I don't know, discreet in hiding your cables. You can kind of like run it through the clamps and things like that. That's kind of my preference, honestly, just to make it look as nice as possible. Kind of run this up the cord to be as seamless looking as possible. But for today's demonstration, since I didn't really plan that out, I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in. Oh, didn't go in. There we go. USB right there. And then, I don't know, maybe run it underneath here, yeah. And then that will plug in here. All right, and then next, our D-tap is going to run into the bottom of the battery, or bottom of the camera. I'll move that real quick so you can see. It's gonna go right in like so. It'll click. And then, just like I said, there are 2 outs on that V-mount battery. Move closer here. One is D-tap, one is USB. And so we're going to just connect that D-tap here. You'll see that light just did something on our camera. And then the last thing is running power to our iPad to make sure the iPad is not going to die. So let me get a better angle there. So I would suggest kind of wrapping the cable first and maybe hugging it somewhere where it can hang and be discreet behind the iPad. So I keep moving this camera, sorry folks, but I'm just gonna kind of hang it here and then plug it in to our V mount. And then as many times as you need to wrap this is fine, I guess, to kind of keep it from doing too much moving and unraveling. I think that should do it. Don't want to go too crazy and damage the cable. But just go right into this adapter on the back. Okay, you heard that response there. So just to review, we've got USB running into iPad here. We've got power, lightning, running from iPad into battery pack. And we've got power camera running from dummy camera or dummy battery to DTAP female battery pack. And folks, this is what our booth is going to look like from the front. Okay, big soft box. Your client or your guest will be standing maybe 4 to 6 feet in front. So from here, we're going to open up our TouchPix settings, or our TouchPix app rather. And I've got a test event already set up here. And so our camera is not on. So I'm going to zoom in. This is just like the roamer. We're using TouchPix. And so we're going to go into settings. Our camera is currently off. Our flash is off. But we're going to go ahead and go into settings. Camera is number 4. You can also just go to our settings hamburger and click on camera. And then likely it's already set to back, which is the rear camera of the iPad. But we want to select DSLR and we want to make sure that our live view is visible, okay? And so then once that's the case, you're going to click on connect and then turn your camera on. You'll see it switch from searching for cameras to connecting, as long as you have power to the camera, which in this case, do we? Yeah, I just turned it on. Oh, it's not powering. Interesting. So it looks like maybe our DTAP is not plugged all the way in. Not sure what the deal is here. Oh, our pin, that's what it is. So I do believe there's a setting on the camera where you have to make sure the camera is set to operate without the door closing. And so I need to find that setting. But really quickly, just for the sake of this video, I'm going to move forward with the instructions, just using one of our backup LP, and these will still be in the box. But this is the camera door here, actually. This is what that looks like. And so in order to put this back on the camera, you're just pulling this spring back like that and then replacing the door. So let's see here. Hopefully you should see that. Oh, there we go. Falling back on me. Okay, and so we're just gonna replace our door. Oh, come on, baby. There we go. So our door's back on now. Now we can just pop a camera battery in there. I'm gonna turn the camera back off, close the door. Sorry, that made this video a little longer than I wanted, but we're gonna cancel this really quickly. Try this again. So whenever you're having issues with connections to the camera, just turn it back to the back camera of the iPad and then start over. Oh, we do not want to close, wrong one. So we're gonna go to camera, DSLR, and then connect to DSLR, turn on the camera, and it'll switch from searching for cameras to connecting. Taking a little longer than usual here. going on. Okay. Well, it looks like we're having problems with our camera connecting, which sucks because that's unlike all the tests I've been doing all week. But how this works is once you connect this, you hit connect to camera and you turn the camera on, it will say connecting. It's usually very quick. It'll pop up the view. In the case of our DSLR, it's set to darker settings before the flash. The idea is that the camera is seeing something really dark, but then using the flash to illuminate it, as opposed to natural lighting, giving the lens something to see. And so the last thing I'll say here before ending the video is that whenever, because your guests won't be able to see their live view really unless you hold this AF on button at the top. And when you hold that AF on button, it'll actually give, so see my front door is up there, but when I hold AF on, it kind of brightens the image and gives me something to look at, right? And that same view here shows up on the front of the iPad once the phone or once the camera is actually connected. But then the guests can see themselves, but then it'll turn off, which is great for us because we'll say, hey, the screen's gonna go back so that you can focus on the lens. 3-second countdown, 3, 2, 1, snap kind of thing. I think I have an idea of why this isn't working actually. And that is because this is double adapted. So we have an adapter running from the iPad. And it looks like maybe there's a loose connection right here. I can see that little space in between there. See if maybe I need to grab something, kind of push that up. Well, I will fix that. I'm going to end this video, but that is essentially how we are setting up the photo booth. Again, don't know what kind of name. Headshot booth? I don't know. I don't like that either. That will for sure piss off a lot of photographers. But yeah, I think this is a double-sided adapter that's running into this adapter, and I think that's why our camera is choosing not to connect, which is why I originally cut this hole here so that we could just run this directly into camera. So I'm going to take all this out, see if that works for us. I'll just keep recording just in case it does. Grab a screwdriver, that would actually help me. Hopefully I don't do damage to our first adapter here, but I'm going to use a pair of needle nose pliers to just kind of pull her out. That's not going to work. Cool. So we're going to use a screwdriver, kind of wedge her out. Hopefully not damaging our case. Yeah, I keep hearing that iPad response from the adapter going in and out. And we're going to go ahead and pull this one out. And then I'm going to pull this one out. So essentially this charge portion is just charging, but it's not information or data adapting. So this won't be used. We're just going to have to go through the side, which is not a big problem. Just we'll take some finessing here. Actually, quickly. Is a pop here and a pop here. Okay, then it pops on the side. Okay, one more, that should come out. So now we can remove our adapter. May have to pull our iPad out really quickly. And that's just suction cupped in there. So now we're going to put her back in. Suction cup her back in there. Quickly put our case back on so this puppy don't fall out. Okay, and so now we're just going to go straight into our iPad from the lightning adapter. Got a response there and a click from the camera, which is a good sign. Okay, so now we have, instead of the previous adapter, we have it going straight from the bottom instead of being adapted, double adapted. But still the same lightning going to the V mount and the USB going to the camera. And then now we're going to connect. So I'm going to go back to the, well, it doesn't matter, just another camera, just kind of tell the system that another camera is being used. If we are ever in a pinch and for whatever reason we end up just having to go with the iPad camera, I do believe it will still work with the flash. Oh, it won't work with the flash. It would be nice, but we could still use the iPad to take pictures, so we're not just completely stumped if, you know, the camera itself doesn't start working. We can just go with the iPad front camera and just keep it pushing. It's the last resort. But going back to camera here, we can go to DSLR and settings are right. So we're going to connect DSLR. I think I actually just turned the camera off. I did. So let's turn it back on. And it's connected now. So when we go back, you'll hear that clicking. You'll see now this kind of responds to me, but it's mostly catching just a bunch of darkness from my house. It's not, but as I mentioned before, if you hold that AF on button, you might have to click the view button first. And let me show you what I mean. So nothing showing here. So you might have to click that start stop button there first and then hold that AF on button. You'll see what happens here. It brightens up to show us. So your clients can see themselves, yay, we're so drunk, let's take a photo. All right, 3, 2, 1. Flash did not work because flash is not on, which should be a part of the training, folks. Please turn the flash on before you send it up. Transmitter is on though, so if you can reach, which likely you won't be able to, I'm gonna turn that on real quick. It is a terrible idea to stand on the C-stand. You gotta hold it for like 3 seconds, I believe. There we go. You hear a funny sound and the green lights come on. And now we have our shot, processes, and then if we have a print, it will print wirelessly using PrintBix. But that, folks, concludes our training. Thank you for watching. Till next time.